saying no to other people to keep your boundaries intact is not losing your character. I found for a very long time I would feel that being honest and showing up in my relationships meant almost like, you know, you're addressing the problems in the situation but maybe not drawing the boundaries that you need to, which sometimes means pulling away. That can hurt you in the long run, and I think I struggle with understanding that I'm not giving up part of myself by saying no or pulling that plug. But now I've learned how to be a lot more present and open, but also detached enough where it's not unhealthy. When I first joined that job, the CEO wouldn't even look at me. It's 3 of us in the room. The guy I was working with, he and I were in the same program. We were studying the same program, had the same extracurricular activities, but it's one thing I understand if he's built the trust and has a relationship and has that, you know, credibility. For the most part, I've had really good advice growing up in my life. However, what I can share is something that's helped me a lot is, and I just find it to be true the older I get, is not letting any type of societal expectations on your role, gender, age to determine where and what you can try. So someone, when like literally my first week at the job, she said, whatever your idea of being assertive is, times it by 10, and maybe do it 10 times more because you're of color. My name is Wafa. I am happy to be here answering. He sent a very good question, so I'm excited to have that dialogue.
Okay, so before we get into the questions for Wafa, let people know where you're from.
For sure. So I was born and raised in Saudi Arabia. I lived there for about 13 years, but my parents are from Yemen and India originally, and I've been in Canada for about 13 years as well. Lived between Toronto and now Halifax.
Okay. Do you speak both languages?
My Arabic isn't the most fluent. I can understand it better than I can speak it, but I can hold a conversation in Urdu.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Urdu is that a separate dialect of?
No, it's a separate language, but it comes from Persian and Arabic.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Hindu, do you speak Hindu? Any Hindu?
No, well, Urdu and Hindi is very similar.
Okay.
So I could probably understand someone who spoke it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we'll get into the first question here. In getting to know Wafa, what would you say are 2 interesting facts about you?
2 interesting facts.
Yeah.
This is kind of a really silly one, but I was born with 2 teeth. Yeah.
You were born already with teeth?
I had 2 teeth, like 2 little ones when I was born.
What the fuck? That is pretty different.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay.
Second one is I don't get to do a whole lot of it these days with just work stuff, but I like to paint, so I'm quite into the arts.
Okay. Was that like since childhood or you picked it
Yeah.
up? Okay.
No, childhood. My mom would just she was a teacher, so she'd just leave me with the art teachers, and that kind of started it.
Okay.
And I've painted since COVID. I was, stuck at home, so I was just painting quite a lot, but these days it's a little busy to find the time, but I have to, and I should. So like I mentioned, I grew up in Saudi Arabia, so a lot of and I went to an international school, so thankfully I had the privileges to, explore a lot of things and learn about a lot of things, and a lot of things were very accessible, but that's not the reality for a lot of people in Saudi Arabia, as a lot of people might already know. Having moved to Canada, I think how it's shaped me is that nothing's off tables in terms of opportunity and going after whatever I decide to go after. And, those gaps that, when you're shifting, you get those culture shocks about how to navigate a different country and everything. I've just found ways to bridge that in different ways, and that's come from knowing that I'm one of the lucky ones to have the privileges to access those things.
Well, that's a good mindset. That's
Yeah.
good. Which one of your parents would you say had the biggest influence over you, and why?
I think definitely my mom. I have 2 brothers and a big family of just men, just even on my dad's side or my mom's side. So she was that female figure in my life, and she's just someone, anything she decided to do, she was always, without even wanting to, was being called to the top levels, or like her thoughts and opinions were respected. And so that kind of work ethic and the amount of effort she puts into things, I think that set some standards for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you absorbed a lot of the qualities that she had when she was, would you say, your age or like stuff like that.
Absolutely, yeah. And even just like how to handle certain situations and stuff, because as you grow, you experience good people, bad people, however you want to define it, and how to navigate those and show up, and being true to yourself and your character and not letting that shake you. All of those things.
What would you change about the dynamic of your relationship with your parents, siblings, and friends? So let's start with the parents dynamic.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would change about that dynamic with your relationship with your parents?
Anything I think of, I think they do it because they care. So recently I've been traveling quite a bit, and they've been a little worried about how that lines up with work. But I try to kind of tell them, it's all right. I check with work before I do those things. But I think any concern they have is because they care about just if I'm doing all the right things. So I wouldn't change anything there. And we're fairly open. I can talk to them about most things. So yeah.
Okay, that's good. And what about your siblings?
Everything's good with my little brother. I think I would change a few things with my older brother, where if we would just bond in different ways. But I think as we were getting older, I think it's happening. We were also, he went away for a little bit when we were younger, so that may have affected that. But yeah. And
your relationship with your friends?
With my friends? Honestly, I feel super lucky for the kind of friends I have in my life, and people I've even met in the last year or so. I always tell people the level of intellect or just mentalities of the women in my life, for example, I'm very lucky to have them around me.
Okay, that's good. Now this is a bit of a twist. Name one weakness and two strengths of yours.
One weakness and two strengths. I'll start with the weakness. And I think you're gonna probably roll your eyes, but it is procrastination. Really, I could probably compete with the cat on the amount of time I nap.
Oh, you nap a lot, eh?
I nap a lot, and but you know what? Napping is fun.
It is fun.
Yeah.
But do you overdo it? As in
sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes I'll lay out things to get done, and then I'm like, a nap would be nice. So I do it, and then I get halfway, not the full way. But occasionally you gotta give yourself the rest. But I just need to balance the two. If you want to be someone who's action oriented and want to get things done and drive towards some goals, you're gonna have to put in the work, and that doesn't happen if you procrastinate all the time.
For the most part, when you go to nap, do you put an alarm to wake up, or you just expect yourself?
Alarm.
Alarms, yeah?
Always. I need multiple ones.
Wow, that's crazy. I tried napping. I try to incorporate it throughout my day, but I feel when I wake up, I don't feel the same throughout the remaining of the day that I did before. So I've
cut them
completely. Yeah.
I've done them shorters now, so that's helped me quite a bit. It's quick naps and then get to work if I need them. That bad.
Okay.
And then you said strengths.
Yeah, two strengths.
The first one, I'd say I'm very optimistic. You could put anything in front of me, I think I would be the most, people might even call it to the verge of not being realistic, but I find being in that state of mind will help me find a solution anyways. Okay. So that's one. And then two, probably hold a conversation with just about anybody from any walk of life. Okay. Yeah. That's an important skill. Yeah. I like that one, because that means no matter where you are, no matter who you come across, you have a good solid foundation of that specific person, culture, or environment. Yeah. No, that's a good skill to have. Yeah. Okay. And it brings out so much more of them as well, because they feel comfortable, right? Yeah. Yeah. They feel I agree. If you could go back to a time in your life, right? Yeah. To revisit or to relive, what period would that be and why? I'm thinking of some time in childhood, whether maybe middle school time. Okay. That when I first came to Canada, I think some of my best experiences happened there, because it was just new and exciting, and I got to get exposed to a lot of different things. Yeah. So that was really fun. Either that, or when I went on a family trip to Malaysia. That was our last time I've been on a family trip. Okay. And it was just really, really fun. What year was that? I don't even remember. Yeah, so you were pretty young then. I was maybe 8, 9. Yeah. I feel I've found that for most people, when I ask them that question, they tend to rewind way, way back to childhood. Because I feel you have no worries. Yeah, exactly. And those are the formative years. Those are the best experiences where you're not held accountable for a lot of things. So, no, it's interesting. Okay. Next one. What would you say is your biggest lesson in life thus far? If you were to summarize all the experiences that you've been through,
What do you say is the biggest lesson that you've drawn from that?
It might sound simple, but saying no to other people to keep your boundaries intact is not losing your character. I found for a very long time I would feel that being honest and showing up in my relationships meant almost like you're addressing the problems in the situation, but maybe not drawing the boundaries that you need to, which sometimes means pulling away. That can hurt you in the long run, and I think I struggle with understanding that I'm not giving up part of myself by saying no or pulling that plug. But now I've learned how to be a lot more present and open, but also detached enough where it's not unhealthy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And when did you start cultivating that? Was that like sometime early in your 20s, in your teens, or? I
think definitely early 20s, so like between 21 and 23, that's when it happened, like in the last 3-4 years.
Okay. What would you say are some of the roadblocks that you've encountered as a woman?
Where do I start?
There's been a lot, eh?
A little bit. I won't lie, it's not that much, but so I've studied finance in school, right? And then I spent quite some time working at a startup, in a financial technology startup, and I've also worked in some private equity venture capital spaces. So there's a lot of biases there. And I found that when I first joined that job, the CEO wouldn't even look at me. It's 3 of us in the room. Wow. The guy I was working with, he and I were in the same program. We were studying the same program, had the same extracurricular activities, but it's one thing I understand if he's built the trust and has a relationship and has that credibility, but to not even look my way, and then that shifted to him almost offering me a co-founder role. Like it just felt as though I had to work extra hard for it to be even seen. Yeah. So that's like one example. Yeah.
Has there been any extreme cases where you felt like being a woman is too much to bear?
No.
Okay, so that's good. That is good.
No,
that's good. So this one we probably did cover it before we started filming. What is your current profession? And if you could switch occupations, what would you do and why?
So I work at a consulting firm, doing technology consulting, and for anyone who already knows anything about it, I feel like they'll roll their eyes about how generic my answer is, but it really changes by the day and it depends on the project that I work on. My main focuses are in areas of the financial services firms and consumer. So any of your retail stores or your banks or insurance firms. And it can range from strategy projects to technology transformations, which essentially means, we've got this problem. Can technology solve it? Can it meet business, outcomes and stuff? So we help them either strategize or implement. Okay. Yeah. And
so that's your current occupation. Now, if you could switch, if you get out of that and pick a different job, what would it be?
Honestly, my first pick would probably be have some kind of a business of my own. I would love the idea of being a serial entrepreneur. Okay. I think about it all the time, and at some point I might try it out. But I think I'm in the space where I'd like to. I'm around a lot of really smart people, and I'm learning a lot. So I like that experience. That doesn't mean I can't do something on the side, but we'll see. But so either entrepreneurship or I would work in sports, like sports business. Okay. Yeah. Nice.
Is that where did that interest originate from? Is that from just being a fan of sports or?
I just enjoy it. I'll do it all the time. Like I would rather watch that than Netflix. That's what I do. So.
Okay. Oh, that's good. I was not expecting that. Okay. No? That's good. All right. Next one is what is a truth that you've been told, which later on you discovered to be a lie or a bias? It could be anything ranging from something you were taught during your childhood, at school, or something you were told through friends.
I'm not sure if there's something that was like disproved, because I find for the most part I've had really good advice growing up in my life. However, what I can share is something that's helped me a lot and I just find it to be true the older I get, is not letting any type of societal expectations on your role, gender, age to determine where and what you can try. So someone, when like literally my first week at the job, she said, whatever your idea of being assertive is, times it by 10 and maybe do it 10 times more because you're of color. Yeah. So And like she said, don't even look at your position, don't look at any of that, because it's about what you bring to the table. And a lot of times if you show that, you're gonna get the opportunities in front of you. So
I agree.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
I like that. Describe a time where you felt lost. Okay. How did you regroup, regain, and get back to your feet so you can be vulnerable? Yeah, open up.
A lot of it just came from closing off really to myself and sitting with my thoughts. And I find writing helps, so that crystallizes my thought in terms of what I'm even feeling. And you know, when you've got so much inside you, how do you in a way manage or balance that with everything else on your mind that you need to get done? So writing things out helps me a lot. And then finding, you know, what's the root of this, like where is this coming from? And if I can't find it, and you know, I talk to trusted people in my life, and that's usually some of my friends, sometimes my mom, usually, so that's what's helped me. Or I get involved in things that excite me, you know, like when I've done just extracurricular activities, whether it was playing sports or it was just trying something new.
So would you say you're a pretty vulnerable person, like you are open to opening up if the time is right?
I am very vulnerable, and I would say even like I'm already like very willing to be emotional, but I'm extremely private, like very private. So it would take me time to do it, but I would, and it wouldn't be because of like I'm unable to do it. I just don't know if I can yet. And I also don't want to dump things on other people without knowing where they're at and what they would want to manage right now.
You've touched on this a little bit. You know, you've traveled around a bit. In terms of traveling, you know, how has that changed your perspective on life and people?
You know, besides the more common thing that most people who travel experience is like that inspiration that you see things, you realize how much bigger the world is, you get inspired by it, you meet so many different kinds of people who are doing very different things. That's always like very moving. But more than that, I think it really helps me, or continues to help me understand just how to approach tough situations in my life. Like it's not even a matter of weighing whose has it harder, who doesn't, but more so just how we approach those can just be heavily impacted when you travel, because you just see so many walks of life. Of
the countries that you've been to, which one would you say has had the most impact on you?
Brazil and Colombia.
Why?
It was just stark differences between the people who were struggling and the ones who weren't, and it was just jarringly obvious. And it's just, you know, when you care, it's just difficult to see that. And it's like, what do you do about it? And sometimes it doesn't have to be at such large scales. It could be something as small as speaking up about something on social media. So looking at the current state of the world, okay, if you had the power to make one change, okay, just one, what would that change be? I would like for everybody to have some level of understanding of where they sit in the issues that happen in our world today and how they can help it, and to not keep that focus on just the self. So, you know, I briefly touched on this, where it could be the shift could be something as small as sharing like informative information online. That could be useful to share information as well. Just like self-education on what's happening and how our day-to-day is connected to the bigger picture. Last question. I did not send you this question, but I want you, for it to be as natural and organic as possible. If you were to part with me with one piece of advice for me to carry on, throughout my life, what would that be? A piece of advice for you to carry on? For the rest of my life. You can think about it, right? You can think about it. It can be on anything. It can be something that you learned, throughout your own journey, or something that, you've read that has impacted you, something you've seen someone go through that you think like, fuck, I think, and this is something that's important to me more and more these days, is wherever, or the efforts you put in to invest in yourself to learn and grow, bring people with you. What are we doing to make sure that we're bringing people with us as we move forward? That's going to be very important, I think.